Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today at CactusCon. It is my great pleasure to introduce RJ Chap, who will be presenting like a boss, virtual and physical presenting tips and tricks, a presentation I probably could benefit from, so take it away.
Thank you. Yeah. Hey folks, how you doing? Can I get a quick show of hands? How many of you have presented in front of a live audience before? All right, awesome. How about those of you who have not done so? Those of you too shy to raise your hand? Raise your hand. Honesty in the back. That's right, I gotta say in the mic. That's actually in the presentation. So I'm extremely excited to be here. I actually ran CactusCon for 2 years. Let me rephrase that. I was the lead for CactusCon. Everyone else did all the really, really hard work. I just ran around and went crazy. So I had to back up off that, but in the past 2 years, the conference has continued to grow. I got to return to do a presentation here, and I'm really excited about that. This is my 6th year presenting at a CactusCon, so without further ado, let's get to it. First and foremost, for a day job, I work as a threat hunt lead at a large firm. We're gonna leave it at that. Okay, if you go and look on LinkedIn, you'd be like, yeah, I see where you work, but we're pretending like we don't know that right now, okay? I'm not necessarily representing SANS, although I am shilling for them because I'm wearing their shirt right now. And I am a SANS author for Forensics 528, ransomware and cyber extortion. And I also teach Forensics 610, reverse engineering malware. I love running my mouth, and they like people to train their classes who like to run their mouth. So that worked out pretty well a couple years going now. I also have some classes on Pluralsight. I'm basically a professional mouth runner, but here's the thing. I do not claim in any way, shape, or form to be a perfect presenter. When people call themselves an expert on something, I always cringe a little bit. I'm like, oh, come on with that, right? You're an expert presenter, stop it. So rather, here's what we're gonna be doing today. There's a lot of beautiful minds at this conference. There's a lot of people who do a lot of awesome and amazing research, and yet they're a little too afraid to just kind of get out of their bubble and present on it, right? So we're gonna be covering these things today. Virtual presenting tips, physical presenting tips, and then just general tips that may apply to either or, right? Oh, and by the way, I have a little note right here that you shouldn't use small fonts because it's super annoying. How many presentations have you been in where someone brings up like a terminal and you can't see a single thing that they're trying to show you? Yeah, I'm gonna address it all the time, right? Yeah. All right, don't do that. So think of this more as, I'm not saying I'm so great, look at me, and this is how I do my thing. But rather, I've been presenting for like 13 years now, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. So when I say, this is what you should do, what I'm really saying is, don't make the screw-ups that I made, right? That's what I'm pretty much telling you right now. First and foremost, I get asked all the time, what should I present on? I don't know how to begin. I don't know where to start. You should present on the things that interest you. You should do the things that you're passionate about. You want to exude that passion. You want people to see how invested you are in what you're presenting. All right, there was one year I was filling out a call for papers form, and I was actually thinking as I'm typing, you know, this is really boring. Like, I can do this well, but I don't like this. So I just deleted it after working on it for like an hour. I don't like that. Rather, you want to pick the thing that maybe you're currently working on or that you've already vested an amount of time in that makes you proud to show off your work. That's the type of thing that you want to present. I'll give you an example. Throughout my career, I started in a security operations center. We were seeing a ton of exploit kits, and we were using a very large SIM. So what did I start presenting on? Those two things. That's what I presented on, and it made me happy. You were there for my first workshop where I dropped the F-bomb every 2 minutes. Don't do that, by the way. I was a little too excited up on stage, and I'm like, yeah, don't do that. I then started seeing malicious documents, maldocs, carrier files, if you will, when exploit kits started to drop off. And then it was a constant flow of them. That's all we were dealing with. So what did I start presenting on? Start presenting on those, right? Because that's what I was the most interested and the most invested in. Then I started to get really into malware analysis. So I started presenting on that. I moved to incident response consulting. So, you know, the teams get called in to come to third parties when like rows happen. And what were we seeing all the time? Ransomware, 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 ransomware. So what did I start presenting on? Ransomware. And it just fit, you know, I didn't have to do a ton of research because I'm like, yeah, I just worked 5 of those cases last week. Like I know how this works. And I now work in threat hunting. I couldn't take the 80-hour, I almost said 80-hour a day, which actually would have been maybe correct. The 80-hour work weeks, my former boss used to drive us a little too hard. Horrible person. But when I was working in that realm and all the ransomware was kind of subsiding and we were seeing a lot of info stealers and loaders as I moved into threat hunting, that's what started to excite me. So that's kind of what I present on these days. I've been presenting a long time. So what am I doing right now? I'm presenting on presenting. So that's just an idea of kind of like, you know, I don't know what to pick, or maybe people won't see me as an expert. You don't have to be an expert on these things. You just have to be interested in them and have something novel to show folks. I've actually filled out CFPs, call for paper entries, right? Where I didn't actually know, you didn't hear this from me, what, where I didn't actually know what it was that I was saying I was going to show people how to do. Once I got accepted, it was like, well, all right, it's time to learn, baby. And then, you know, made it happen. I don't know if I'd recommend that to everyone, you know, but if you want to challenge yourself, there you are. So let's get into virtual presenting. First and foremost, this is my setup here. I'm going to drop that since I'm at the keyboard. I'm just going to go like this. This is my current setup. You'll notice I have on the left and the right side, I have my ring lights, right? You want front-facing lighting. Above lighting is not flattering to most people. I'll tell you that right now, right? My wife walked into the room one day and she said, cut the light, cut that light. I said, why? And she's like, I was like, hey, I'm not losing my hair. And she said, let's just turn the light off. So forward-facing lighting is your friend. These ring lights, the one on, oh, well, the one on the left, I don't know my left and right, but I'll teach you about presenting. Awesome. The one on the left was like $250. The one on the right was $40 and it works better. So you don't have to go all out, you know, just get some front-facing lighting. Now, another thing that's important to keep in mind, your background. Sometimes I join calls or sometimes I see presenters where their backgrounds are busy, they're noisy. Like whether it be the actual virtual background where there's like, I don't know, bubbles floating around or whatever, something like that. No, you're the star of the show. So what you want to do is be in focus of the frame, more on that coming up on the very next slide, and you don't want too much noise in the background. I used to, well, I love classic video games, like retro video games, and I have a CRT setup behind me. I can go into that for the whole remainder of this talk right now. But I have all these old 8-bit systems behind me, and I used to leave my TV on. And I actually had a buddy who works in AV, and he messaged me one day. He's like, turn that TV off when you're presenting, dude. Stop it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I kind of just took that lesson forward. Your camera, when you're virtually presenting, matters. So my recommendation, a Logitech Brio is pretty cool. This is a nice little one. By the way, oh, that's right. I dropped my internet. No problem. So the Logitech Brio is a decent HD webcam. But if you want to take that next step up, I highly recommend moving into the DSLR range. My favorite, and the one that I use, is a Sony ZV-E10. It's $600 right now. The price has dropped. And it sounds like a lot, but you're investing in the overall quality of your presentations, your recording, and whatnot. You can actually see mine mounted right there. I can even zoom in more. Oh, wow. Let me not zoom in that much. But when I changed to that camera, I got so many comments about, wow, oh, it seems so I even got one person say, oh, you just seem to present better today. I'm like, that's cute. Your dress, your clothing. Look, here's the thing. Wear what makes you comfortable. If I ever go to events where they have like C-levels and they're all in like 3-piece suits, I don't even own a suit. Well, I own one, but I don't fit it anymore. So let's just say I don't own a suit. I'm not comfortable in suits. I don't like that. So for me, today, I'm wearing jeans and these actual like black work shoes. I call them work shoes, dress shoes, right? This is weird. As I'm walking, I can hear myself stepping and I'm like a little uncomfortable, but you know, okay, I'll give a little bit of pizzazz for the talk, right? But whatever makes you comfortable, that's really what you should dress in, because you don't want to be up there and feel stiff and kind of like, oh, I don't like how I'm not used to this. You don't want that. It's going to affect your presentation and that's going to be a bad time. Clicker stopped, we'll move it right over here. Ah, that's what happened. Next. I have a friend who works in the AV industry, as I mentioned. He took this screenshot from a presentation that I did one day. And he said, hey, this is where your eyeline belongs, with some other commentary. So I called him and I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, look, man, you're making yourself look diminutive. You're not coming off authoritative. And it shows, whether people realize it or recognize it or not, it's happening. How many calls have you been on, or for that matter, do you do this, where your camera is like this and you're down here? I know a lot of people do that. I have a lot of people that I work with that do that. So I made a change and a new camera, and this is what I moved to. And it comes off very, very different. If I take the zoom out, you'll see that my eyeline is right where my buddy, who's such a nice fella, told me to put it. Audio. Background noise can be super frustrating and very difficult for people to kind of tune out. Just a heads up, a lot of people will listen to your presentation while wearing earphones or headphones. Have you ever noticed how much more you can actually hear when doing so? So turn your fans off, turn your phone on silent mode, turn your phone alarms off. That's a key thing. I was actually doing a practice run of this very talk this morning at like 6 in the morning, because I wake up too early now. And I was on the slide right here, and I was literally saying, turn your alarms off, and my alarm went off. And I was like, that was hilarious. So yeah, turn your alarms off. I also like to put my phone like on padding. I have it in my pocket now, but basically some people will put their phone like, say, right here during a presentation, and even if it's on silent and it starts to buzz, that microphone picks it up real easy. A lot of these are dynamic microphones. So the mic type does matter, but it shouldn't be like a crazy big thing whether you have a dynamic or a condenser microphone. You should just have somewhat of a decent setup. More on that on the next slide. What I want to talk about now are the screenshots you see here. So I was doing a Twitch stream with my buddy, who happens to be sitting right there, and our other buddy, who you see pouring us a drink in the background right there, showed up while we were Twitch streaming, and he's just like, hey, and he gets into frame and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, we were doing a Twitch stream. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I just got a truck full of whiskey and I'm feeling good. And I was like, well, get out to your truck and go like, what are you doing here? So he comes in with his little sunglasses inside the house, this guy, and he pours us a drink. And then look how excited he is that he poured us that drink. Now I'm showing off the drink because, well, first off, it's a drink and I was happy, but it's actually ice that he made. It was this single block ice with no bubbles, no imperfections. And I was showing it off to the camera like, look how nice this was. And then I proceeded to continue the Twitch stream, not realizing the entire dang time my glass is going clink, 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 clink into the microphone. And it was almost as annoying as the 3 seconds I just did that, but you know, for an hour, basically. And it was very, very annoying. And I was like, oh, I ruined a really funny Twitch stream because I had a buddy pour me whiskey during it. I mean, I was a private bartender, right? That's cool. For audio, this is me getting a little carried away, okay? For audio, you can get away with like a simple Yeti USB microphone. But if you really want to have some strong audio, what I recommend is moving up to like a condenser microphone, a dynamic condenser like a Rode Procaster. And then moving into something like this guy, which is my baby. I freaking love this thing. This is a voice processor. It has a compressor. The compressor makes it so that if I start talking loud all of a sudden, it automatically goes, shh, shh, calm down, and it will take my gain down for me. Sorry about that, by the way, to the audio team. And it has a de-esser, so you hear less of that. And it has an enhancer, so I can sound like I'm on old-time radio, or I can go high-pitch for whatever reason, prank calling my friends or something. And it has an expander gate, which basically will make it so that when I'm talking directly into the microphone, it's allowing audio capture. But when I stop talking in between, it stops audio capture. So it just really cleans up your audio. Now, these are about $230, and it's a 1U rack, but I just mount it on the wall, and I just adjust my little knobs one time, never touch it again. It's awesome. And then, of course, you'll need an interface device for your PC. I like the Scarlett devices from Focusrite. I actually used some archaic thing that I had to use drivers from eons ago to get working, so ignore that. But the Focusrite Scarlett interfaces work really, really well. This particular setup can get upwards of like $1,000, right? Plus I'm saying, go buy a $600 camera. And you're like, hey, shut up, Brian. But at the same time, when you move to that audio and video quality, it makes a huge difference and a huge impact on the delivered product. All right, let's get into physical presenting. What I'm doing right now. Hi. I recommend that you own that stage. All right, now you might be noticing right now I'm standing behind a podium and I haven't been gallivanting from left to right, which I normally do constantly. The reason I'm doing that is because of the microphone type that's in front of me. I'm not able to do that. But it's important that you're aware of what capabilities you have, especially ahead of time. What if I had a microphone that I had to hold in my hand? I'm going to be doing some demos. Have you ever had to do demos and then all of a sudden showed up and you have a microphone that you have to hold in your hand? You've been like, oh, this sucks. And then you're trying to type and I tried to do one of these like on the neck one time. I've even put it on the desk and like talked into it while I was typing. You look like an idiot, but you know, it works, I guess. So ask. I asked right before the talk. I said, hey, do you happen to have a lavalier mic? And they're like, this is your mic. I said, cool. And no problem. I'm not going to roam too much. But to have a presentation style where you want to be in the middle of the stage, you want to be walking around and owning that stage, it's important that you know you have that ability, and you can even maybe set it up before time to have that ability. Speaking of knowing and owning your stage, this is my stage. This picture was taken this morning when I came in here and I interrupted people and I was like, hi, just looking at the stage. And I wanted to get my picture so that I could know exactly what I was working with. I know what type of stage I have, how big it is, how much I can roam around. In this case, boom, we're doing a podium talk. No problem, whatever. But if you come ill prepared, it can affect your presentation. In fact, gravely sometimes. Make eye contact. Hey, psst, look at me. Look at me. Have you noticed this entire talk, I've been trying to scan the room and give like every person's eyes at some point some type of presence. We get people who give presentations who just sit there like this and they just find some person like you see Mac and Charlie in the slides and they just start talking. And I've had that happen because sometimes like I'm very attentive when I'm in a talk. And so sometimes presenters will notice that and they'll start focusing on me, and then it's just like this, like they're talking and I'm like, hey, what's going on, bro? Yeah, don't do that. Some people are not comfortable looking others in the eyes, especially strangers or people that they're just not familiar with, which is what a stranger is. So another like a trick to that is just look over the tops of everyone's heads, but scan the audience. You don't have to look at them directly in the eye, but scan over the tops of their heads. That might help you out a little bit. Remote control devices make it a lot easier for you to present, especially if you're going to be roaming around. So my audio may cut out just momentarily for the recording because I'm going to step over just briefly and then I'll be right back. But I have a particular remote control that I'm really fond of. It's called the Logitech Spotlight. I guess I'm shilling for Logitech because I have two of their products on the page right here. Didn't kind of realize that until this morning. But even if I'm way over here, I can point at something, I can zoom in. I can do one of these. I can say, hey, look over there. I can actually put it down here. I can say, look at the CactusCon 13 logo, and then I can even zoom in on it, and I can even zoom down on it like that. If you're doing the type of presentation where you're going to be mobile and moving around, this type of thing is a freaking lifesaver. It's awesome, and people are like, oh, it's interactive and fun, and he's still controlling it, and he's walking around, and yay. At least that's what I feel everyone's thinking, right? For one conference, I actually turned a Nintendo Power Glove into a presentation remote device. It was a retro themed, it was B-Sides 2019 San Francisco. And so I opened it up and made a bunch of modifications. I even showed in the presentation, like I'm doing right now, because I was very proud of it. I was like, look, this is like horrible hardware hacking. You're like, hey, is that cardboard? And I'm like, hey, shut up. It worked, leave me alone. Oh, I want to go back to this one. If you have a mouse, like Logitech, their awesome laser is called a dark field mouse. I'm sure their competitors have equivalents, right? They'll work on like fabrics and things like that. So you could walk around with your mouse, pretend this is a mouse, it's just my phone, but I could walk around just with it on my pants and I can actually just move around like this. I can click, I can program a zoom into it. So you don't have to get Logitech Spotlight. It just happens to be one of my favorite. All of us Sans folks use these. I don't know how much they cost, but it's totally worth it. Logitech, I'll take that payment in the form of crypto. Questions, always restate the questions. I was just watching a press conference, like a national press conference that was picked up by the Associated Press. It's annoying me because I was watching this conference and they're going like, all right, we have a question, and then silence, you can't hear anything that's saying. And then they just started answering the question. And if I was in that audience, I would have raised my hand and I'd be like, yeah, hey, my question was, what was their question? I have no idea what you just answered. So repeating the question is very important. If we have questions towards the end of the day, even though we have a smaller room, I'll definitely do that just to make sure everyone's like, oh, I got it. That's what he's talking about. Also, if you're using some type of chat mechanism or medium, then putting a Q&A in there can be very useful. It's also very nice to prepare a Q&A, like an FAQ, and share it after the fact. Some folks really enjoy that, especially when you're doing like longer style presentations with multiple, questions and answer breaks and things of that nature. You may notice that I used AI image generation. I tried, I think, 20 times for that sign to say Q&A and the shirt to say hacker. And eventually I was like, that's cool, whatever. It's cool. I'm done. I'm over it. For video, we actually have some video issues right now in this room, and I came prepared. I have 2 different HDMI adapters in my backpack, and I have here a screenshot. This is, well, not a screenshot, it's a picture, better yet, of a really old one. See how it's all scratched up and scuffed up? It's because I used to take it with me everywhere. It had DVI, HDMI, VGA. You never know what you're going to run into. You just never know what you're going to run into. So I highly recommend, if you're probably a USB-C enabled laptop these days, all the brands, Target, whatever the brands out there have them, just go grab yourself an adapter, throw it in your travel bag, and just make sure you leave it there. Because I've gone places before without my adapters and then felt very, very bad when I realized, usually at a security conference, like if I asked right now, who has a USB-C to HDMI adapter? Raise your hand. Okay, 5 or 6 went up right now. Like, this is the kind of place where I could easily get one, but depending on where you are, you never really know. For your output resolution, usually it's 1920 by 1080, but you never really know until you plug in. Right? So give yourself enough time to set that up and make sure you're not having like flickering video problems or anything crazy like that. Because when people are ready to hear you speak, and especially when it's a conference where there's a lot of tracks going on, and there's other people to see, like if you're not ready to go, some people might be like, whatever, and just leave. Moving to general tips. PowerPoint has this feature called Designer. It is freaking magic. Here's an example of one of my slides. All right. I use more of like a boring kind of template-y. I've got my little, hexadecimal output on the right-hand side, CactusCon icon at the bottom left. Oh, that's the old icon that I have there from last year. Yeah. And then I have my slide. I clicked on Designer, and Designer was like, okay, well, do you want that to look like this? Do you want to have a little circular graphic in the bottom left-hand side? Do you want the graphic to take up more of the left-hand side? Yada, 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 yada. Pro tip, I wrote a 4-day class for SANS. The entire class was based on me using Designer. I'm colorblind. I suck in terms of like, I have no stylistic design, like I suck with it. So I basically do bullet points and sub-bullet points and sub-bullet points, or like a table. And then I go, PowerPoint, make my presentation. And it just does it for me. And it's phenomenal. If you've not played with it before, Copilot's also now a thing which is even more advanced. So I highly recommend that you check those things out. You use that, right? Yeah. AI generated images can be fun, but they can come off kind of wonky, like the whole Q&A and hacker thing being transposed. I'm not kidding. Like 20 different times, I tried 20 different prompts. I could have just changed programs, but I was like, no, I'm going to make this work. And then eventually I acquiesced and gave in. Not all AI generation tools are strong with text. So as an example, I gave the prompt to Midjourney, which is my favorite by far in terms of complexity and just like fantasy, and it's such a great tool. Hold that thought. And I said, I want a personification of an AI system standing in the woods. I don't know why they were in the woods. I just came up with that. Holding a sign that says, I'm not drunk, you're drunk. Now, technically it failed, but I think it freaking nailed it. I'm drunk. I'm not you. You're drunk. Like, honestly, that's kind of an A+ right there, is it not? It did. Yeah, it really did. The AI was like, look, Ryan, I know you. I got you. Don't worry. I got you. Okay. Exactly what I wanted. That's what I really wanted. Yeah, that's what I wanted, for sure. So meanwhile, Grok did a much better job. Now notice the image. It says, I'm not drunk, you're drunk. Well, it's boring, right? That's what I asked it to do. But I do like how it actually put some bottles down here. So, you know, the personification of AI is getting a little tipsy. But just a heads up, some of them are not great with text. Grok is really strong with text. Midjourney, I mean, look at the robots. Personification of AI. That's bland, that's boring. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, I think, honestly, Midjourney just won. All right. For your operating system, you can never, ever trust power, your battery on your laptop devices, right? Right now, my laptop is plugged in, and the first thing I did when I set this laptop down is I was like, I'm plugging this dang thing in. People are like, oh, the battery says 95%. All right, good luck with that. So if you've ever had a laptop die in the middle of a presentation, then you probably already do this. But if you haven't, it's going to happen at some point, and that feeling sucks when you're mid-conversation and then just boom, everything goes away, and you're like, oops. So don't do that. Another thing is that you want to kill the notifications that your operating system wants to show you. So both Windows and Mac have this focus assist option. If I go into one of my VMs here and I just look for focus, this is focus assist on Windows. You'll notice right now it's off, but I can change it such that I get alarms only. Right? So there's more advanced options in here, but I'm not going to go through all of them, right? I'm just showing you that it's an option, and you have that option on the Mac OS also. By the way, notice how all my icons are a little bitty, itty, tiny, and hard to read? More on that coming up on the next slide. Sharing your screen versus your window type. I like to share the entire screen. I like to be able to do something like this and switch over quickly between like a VM and a PowerPoint or something like that. But that puts you into a precarious place, because if you're sharing your full screen, what might pop up? What windows might be in the background? You have to be very, very vigilant of those things, right? Operational security, OpSec. You don't want to fail and like let too much out that you weren't supposed to let out, especially like now if something's being recorded, which, by the way, yes, is why I'm showing you things on a VM and not on my host machine, because this is my machine. Resolution and font scaling. Here's something that I cannot stand. I'm going to go into my VM. I'm going to open up Notepad++. All right, folks, as you can see here, blah, 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 blah. No, as we cannot see here. Like even in the front row, it might be kind of hard to read that. So a lot of tools, a lot of programs have the ability to simply just zoom that text and maybe enable like a word wrap functionality. Right? Hey, look, now we can read that. And if you really want someone to focus on something, then use your zooming tools, which are coming up, by the way. But I'd be like, that part right there. Or I can say like that line right there or something like that. So that's one thing. Another thing is that the OS itself has a native font scaling that's relational to the resolution that it's set. Right now, if I were to say, see my labs folder, you're like, not really, right? So on Windows, if I simply right-click on the desktop, go to Display Settings, you can choose, here, I'll zoom in to show it to you. It's right here. This guy, Scale and Layout. It's usually right above the resolution on like Windows 10 and 11. So if I change this to, say, 175%, that's cute. Well, you can see the contextual menu is much, much larger and legible. My icons are being cute because of a third-party app I have on this VM, which I was hoping would not be a problem. There you go. When we're teaching, like any of my forensics courses or something like that, this is the way that we present the screen, so you can see what the heck we're talking about, what we're clicking on. Your screen, if possible, should not be the primary screen for a number of reasons. One of them is this right here. When I use my Alt-Tab, you can see all the windows that are open and in the background, right? I know exactly which ones are open right now because I set this up before. But I have before made this error where I was like, all right, let me switch to my VM, and then I had private screens up that I'm like, oh, they won't see this window, it's minimized or whatever, and then oops. So sometimes if it's really, really like if I'm presenting for like a US government or something like that, I'll actually bring a secondary monitor with me, and I'll set that to be a secondary monitor to my primary, and then just kind of have it off to the side so I don't have to worry about some of those OpSec issues. Another thing is just move the stuff off of your window, close things that you're not using at the given time for your presentation. If you don't need them open, then don't have them open. kill processes that might cause problems, pop-up notifications, whatever the heck. Like, just get them out of the mix. Don't allow that to be a problem. Terminals. Terminals kill me. Here's a terminal. I'll open up Windows terminal. I see stuff like this all the time. All right, I'm going to go into desktop, and then I'm going to go into labs, and then I'm going to take a look in here. See section 2, and you're like, no, I don't. And then I'm going to go to section 2, and then we're going to look at, I typed LS, but it's PowerShell, so we're fine. And then people are like, I can't see what you're doing, dude. 90% of the presentations, like highly technical presentations I feel that I've gone to have looked just like this. Stop it. Oh, now we know what the heck you're talking about. I love a tool called ZoomIt. I'm in love with it. It's a tool that I've been using to zoom in this whole time. Here's an example of ZoomIt's capabilities. It's made by Mark Rusinovich. And if I wanted to underline his name, I can get a straight line like that too. I love this freaking tool. I can zoom in, I can move my screen all around. I can say, hey, I'm gonna show you how to use some mouse highlights in a moment. I can move around, I can click, I can make a box around something. I can then once again move back around the screen and then make an arrow to something else. It's free. It's part of the PS Tools Sys Internal Suite. And yes, I totally just closed my presentation. Hey, round of applause. Come on. Come on. Now that was funny. Is it okay if I pull the HDMI and pop back in? All right. That's hilarious. All right. We'll be going in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that. I'm going to laugh watching that in the recording later. Okay. So ZoomIt is part of PS Tools, Sys Internals. It's free. Just go grab it and run the darn thing. It's awesome. On the Mac, it has accessibility built in. So you can actually set it up. So for example, I believe it's Command Option 8 or Command Control 8 does a zoom in. It works very, very similar to ZoomIt, and it's just built into the Mac under the accessibility section. Don't you dare do it. Don't you dare do that. All right. Anyways. No, I'm going to tell everyone. So this guy's got this ridiculously blinding light, and I made the joke earlier. I was like, you should go into someone's talk, and you should just hold it up and turn it on, see how long it takes the presenter before he flips out on you. And then here we are. And he found me. All right. You got me. You got me. I should have never said that. Okay, you can add a mouse highlight. You probably noticed that my mouse actually has a cursor highlight on it already. So this in Windows is a really easy thing to do. In Linux, I have a link for you here that takes you to a GNOME package where you can easily get some really cool DMZ cursor replacements. On the Mac, there's Cursor Pro, which is, it's pretty cheap. It's like a couple of bucks or something like that. And it gives you like ZoomIt functionality, but also with cursor highlight. It's awesome. So an example of changing your cursor, if I go over here onto my Windows machine, on the desktop, I have downloaded 2 of these cursor files. I can put them into my, for example, C Windows cursors directory. I don't actually have to put them here. I'm just obsessive compulsive and I want them in there. So that's where they're going to go. And then I can bring up my mouse options. So I just typed in mouse and I go to mouse settings. And then from here at the top right hand side, I can go to additional mouse options. I'll just highlight it for some reason. I messed that up. And then in here, there's a tab called pointers up at the top. It's the second tab over. And then I can change the pointer type. And I can change like my yellow highlight. And now in my VM, I also have a highlight. So this is very, very useful for obvious reasons when people, you're drawing the eye, right? Oh, good, I didn't close my presentation this time. Let's move on. All right, that's what we just covered. Next up is Explorer. I highly recommend that you hide your desktop icons. You'll notice that when I'm showing you this VM, I'm not hiding my desktop icons. I actually have a program or a tool on here that, orients them in these nice little boxes and it looks all pretty. If you're working off of your host machine, right click, go to View, And well, usually you have the option here. My tool's overriding that. So basically just where it says show desktop icons, uncheck that so that you're not showing your desktop icons. How many of you have way too many icons in your desktop? I do. I do the same thing. I have folders because I'm organized, but I've got like 40, so maybe not so much. Also, when you open up Explorer, check this out. When you open up Explorer, by default, it does the following. Give me 1 second. I have to revert my settings. When you open up an Explorer window, by default, it will actually show quick access. Quick access shows things that you have frequented, files that you've recently used. Now, this is in a VM for a course that I run, so this is all fine, right? But if this is on my personal host, like, what's going on there? Like, for example, someone might ask me, like, what's that stand for? And I'd say, pictures I told my wife I deleted. And they'd say, really? And I'd say, no, just kidding. But anyways, all right, so the whole idea here is what you want to do is if you go into View and then go to Options, you can change it so that when File Explorer opens, it does not open to quick access, but rather it opens to this PC. If I go to this PC, and then now, for example, were I to open Explorer, now you're going to see the standard folders. You are going to see your network maps shares, heads up on that. And you'll see the name of, for example, your hard drive, right? But you're not seeing my frequented files, okay? Another thing is the navigation pane, which is simply up in View, has a button called Navigation Pane, and then you can choose Navigation Pane. By default, shows all kinds of personal private stuff over here. So you want to turn that off by basically just going to View, the opposite of what I just did, right? Turn it off. Here's an example. I was giving it, this is actually a screenshot from a presentation I was doing. I was doing a presentation on my host computer. I opened up Explorer and all of a sudden a bunch of personal stuff showed up and I was like, nice. Hey, look, CactusCon's in there. Oh, isn't that cute? But I was lucky that there wasn't anything crazy in there, right? But I just thought, wow, that was pretty stupid. Let me use that as an example of what not to do. Here's better what you'll see, navigation pane off and set to this PC by default. Your browser, you should be hiding those bookmarks, right? We see bookmarks all over browsers all the time. There's no need for those to be in there, so get rid of those. Be wary. When you're in incognito mode, did you know that your browser history still shows up? If you didn't know that, I found that out the hard way. Don't do that. Did you know that Chrome has a guest feature mode? I'm in guest mode right now. Oh, that's great. So in guest mode, your browser history doesn't show up. And for that matter, if you hit F11 and you go full screen, then basically it's just the content you're trying to show and nothing else. Here's an example. This is also from a presentation I was doing. I had some bookmarks up here. I had like my icon. You can see my extensions I was using, the sites that I frequented down here. And then what I just showed you, guest mode, full screen. Just the content you want to show. That's it. Like I did originally in this very presentation, for sure. For screenshots, has anyone here ever used Snagit? It is phenomenal. I love that head nod, like, yeah. Yeah, I've used that tool. Snagit is phenomenal. Via Snagit, you can take screenshots and do all kinds of amazing stuff with them. Let's see if I set this up before properly or not. I did. So this is me on the stage earlier this morning, and basically in Snagit you have all these little features. If I want to do like a panoramic, this just feels stupid having a picture of me staring out at the audience. I didn't think that one all the way through. That's okay. But you know, you can add arrows like, hey, look. Oh. What's that? Plus 5 points. They're useless and mean nothing, but you get 5 of them for that one. That's great. So you can draw arrows, you can draw shapes around things, whatever. What I really like is this feature, and I'm not going to go to recent because that could be dangerous territory. But if you want to say like, look, there's a wrinkle there, and there's a wrinkle there, and there's a wrinkle, like you can. So what I'm doing, if you can see, is you can actually enumerate things in your graphics. It's really, really fun to do that. Probably not with this particular use case example, but you get the idea, all right? So that one just came to me. Yeah, it worked out, right? All right, so if you're on a Mac, there's a tool called Shottr. It is also fantastic, highly recommend it. However, Snagit is Mac compatible, so just use Snagit. It is commercial, it does cost money. I pay for it every year, update my maintenance license. I use it constantly because I do a lot of presentations and content development and whatever. For Linux, Flameshot is awesome. There's a link in the PDF. I'll give you the link to the PDF, by the way, at the end of this. We're almost done here. And you can go check out Flameshot. It's free. Just add it, install it via Aptitude or Snap or whatever floats your boat, and then you can use that in a Linux environment. For fine-tuning your skills, practice makes perfect. All right, I'm going to level with you folks. I usually don't practice my presentations. Okay, I'm not telling you what to do. In fact, don't do this. I typically will be developing my presentations moments before I actually present, which I may or may not have done right outside just before we came on stage. Whatever. But the more you practice, the better you're going to be. The more you practice, the tighter your time frames are going to be. I timed this talk out to 43 minutes. We're at 41 minutes. We're right on schedule. So if you end too early, like if I finish in 20 minutes and we had a full hour and you're like, what? That sucked. If we have 60 minutes and I end at 43 to 45 minutes and have 5 minutes for questions, and then you have 10 minutes to get water and snacks and whatever before the next talk, right? Like, okay, great. That's awesome. I did this very talk and I went through it in 21 minutes because I did not practice. And I thought, well, it's just presenting, you know, I'll just kind of go quickly. And as soon as I finished, this guy walks up to me and he's like, wow, you have some coffee beforehand or what was going on there? Like, I didn't practice. And the practice is really not just for the material that you know, like, what the heck did I put on these slides, but your timing, okay? I don't try to go for perfect, right? I closed my presentation once, I did, okay, silly. There's no perfect, right? It's rather having fun, being comfortable, and conveying what you're trying to convey. That's really the goal here. So try to use filler, or not only did I just say so, which is a filler word, but then I said try to use filler words. Like I said, I don't go for perfection, all right? I just have fun up here. Try to avoid using filler words. That's one of the last things I want to mention up here, because people who every other word is it basically, it takes away from your authority on the subject, and it sounds like you don't know what you're talking about, basically. If you've ever done a presentation in front of a live audience, you know that it can feel like a little bit nerve-wracking sometimes. Not me, I'm an attention whore. I love being up here. Right? I love this. But a lot of people, they come up in front of a stage, they come up in front of people, even just sitting down, like in chairs around other people, they get very nervous. There's a group out there called Toastmasters. Has anyone ever heard of Toastmasters? Yeah, oh good, yeah. Are you in a chapter now?
I was till it got closed, but it was great while it lasted.
I thought you were going to say kicked out, and I was going to ask for the story, but I'll take... He said I was until it closed, so I was waiting for it to say kicked out. Oh, yes. Okay, so it's a great group. You can learn to basically fine-tune all of the type of things that we're talking about now, but really like your body posture. You know, this microphone, I could have maybe put it up a little bit higher because my posture is a little down while I'm speaking, and I'm usually more comfortable like this. But I didn't do it beforehand, and I didn't want to touch it while I was talking, so I just went with it the whole time, right? But little things like that you can pick up in groups like Toastmasters. Really, really cool organization that can help you out quite a bit. And folks, when it comes down to it, presenting should be fun. Okay, this should be something that excites you. It should be something that you enjoy doing, and it should be something that when people leave, they've learned something, even if it's one thing where they're like, that's really cool, I didn't know that. Like, that's your whole goal of doing a presentation. It's not to bore people. It's not to say, hey, this is my dissertation. It sucked. I hated doing it, and I hate presenting on it. Go away, right? That's not what we're doing here. The best time that I had presenting is when I was presenting at B-Sides Las Vegas 2016. And right in the middle of my presentation, about 10 minutes into my presentation, the woman who ran the whole thing, she came into the room and very, very vocally said, "Excuse me, Ryan." And I thought, oh, what did I just say? Like, I thought I was being kicked off the stage. And she said, "Did you make an outlandish or crazy request?" And I said, "Yes, I did." So on the call for papers, there was an entry that basically said, "Do you have any like outlandish, crazy requests?" And I was like, hell yeah. I want a golden chalice with B-Sides Las Vegas on one side and Chaps on the other side. And I freaking got it. Isn't that great? I love that story. Presenting has been an absolute passion of mine. It's something that I really, really, really like to do. I have a lot of fun doing it, and I just hope that some of the tips that I've given you here today can, help guide any of the things that you may be doing in your future endeavors. I want to say once again, I'm not up here trying to say, "Oh, I'm great, I'm perfect." I close my presentation, like whatever, right? But rather, I'm saying I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. Don't make those mistakes. Hey, another bullet point: don't close your presentation halfway through. I'd also just like to say to take care of your mental health. It's something that I deal with on a daily basis, and I think that a lot of folks in our community do. So please take care of your mental health. If you need to reach out, please do it. I'm available. I'm open. DM me, hit me up, whatever. You can contact me at RJ_Chap on X or Twitter. I'm also on LinkedIn, and you can get the slides for this presentation at for528.com/CC13. I'll leave that up, zoomed in like that for you. It's just the PowerPoint and slide version. Thank you everyone very much. I appreciate you for attending my talk, and we'll move to questions if anyone has any. And again, thank you very much. And yes, that is always the most awkward part of a talk, when people applaud for you at the end and you're like, yes, question in the back. The question was basically how I feel about dark mode. Do you think it's something that, I'll paraphrase a bit, would be a little more relaxing, or maybe something that you want to have like the opposite, where you kind of keep them engaged? I actually use bright slides on purpose. And sometimes when I see all dark slides with like the white text, I get like into my own little lull. So that's my take on it. That's why I use slides like these, where there's like a lot of pop. And then, I mean, there's a lot of black on this particular slide, but you get the idea. When showing tools, however, like terminals and things like that, and people have like, like a bright green terminal, like old school stuff. No, I just black terminal with nice colorful text or something like that. Any other questions? Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Nervous energy before you start speaking. What's your strategy for dealing with that?
All right, you're all going to laugh at this. The question, not the question, the answer. The question was nervous energy. How do you deal with it before you talk? What's my strategy for that? And my answer is, has anyone seen Die Hard? You remember in Die Hard where he said to walk around, make fists out of your toes and walk around? I no kidding do that. I actually did that when I walked from back out there to here. It's something, it's for me, it's very, very uncomfortable. I don't like my feet touched. Don't touch my feet. And so when I do that and I start walking around, it's like this, I focus everything drains out of my brain and just goes into, this is weird. It feels good. I'm getting blood flow. What the heck? And it just kind of like gets me in the mode to do it. Another thing that I highly recommend is, again, surveying the land ahead of time and getting up on stage. I always equate it to, have you ever started a new job, but somewhere where you've been multiple times, and you think you know the layout, you think you know what it's like? Just say like a Starbucks store. You may visit your Starbucks store, I don't know how many times, right? But all of a sudden, when you get behind that counter and your view is changed completely, it's like a whole new freaking world. So the more that you can get used to the environment you're going to be in, the better. That's why I came up here earlier and I took a picture of the stage and I put it in there. I'm like, this is what I do. Like, I walked back and forth. This isn't a huge stage, but I went from corner to corner like multiple times, and I was looking out and I was going, my stage, my stage. All right, I was doing that in my head, but I really was, by the way. Yeah. Question. How do you deal with imposter syndrome? I don't believe you ever get rid of imposter syndrome in this environment. No one is the best at anything. No one knows everything there is about any particular topic. And the more that you hide from the people who may know more than you, the less you're going to learn from them and the less that you're going to be able to engage with those people. Like, for example, there's someone in this room right now who co-wrote a threat hunting framework that I think is absolutely freaking phenomenal. I work as a threat hunt team lead. I could never come up with a framework like that. No, I couldn't do it. And looking at that work output, when I see that, when I was a lot younger, I used to say, oh man, like they're so smart and they're doing such a good job with that. And when am I ever going to, you have to focus on your strengths and you have to focus on what you can bring to the table. So for me, when I started on my current team, I actually thought that I was going to write some of the best queries because I was really strong and been using Sims for years and years and years. I got onto the team and I was like, whoa, they had some crazy queries. And I immediately, my first thought was, oh, they're way better than me at this? This is my job though. This is my new role. I moved out of IR consulting where I thought that I was so special and now I'm over here. And rather, I immediately was like, hey, how'd you write that? Hey, how'd you come up with that part of that? What does that do? Why are we bending time like that? Why is this happening like that? So basically, the whole thing about imposter syndrome, no one's the best. There's better speakers out there than me by far who don't close presentations midway through. There's better malware analysts out there. I've been doing malware for 13 years. There's better at everything that we do. So the thing is, the whole term, we stand on the shoulder of giants, is to just recognize and understand that you want to work with those people and you want to just do the best you possibly can damn do and show your passion and enthusiasm and learn from anyone who's willing to teach you. It's pretty much how I deal with it. Yeah. Any other questions? I saw one over here. Yeah. Yeah, the question was, do you recommend virtual machines for technical presentations? Yes, absolutely. I love using virtual machines for the presentations. I often will put the entire presentation on the virtual machine, I believe that's what you're going for, right? Yeah. In this case, I did it by design to show some of the things on the host with the window switching and things of that nature. But a lot of times when I'm doing a presentation, I'll have it live completely in a VM. And I used to have a VM called Prezo VM, and that's literally all it was for. You know what? That would have been cool to have in the presentation. Plus 5 points. Sir, here you go. Round of applause. Yes?
What are your thoughts on recording stuff in the presentation? Things that ooh, I hope this works while I'm up in front of everyone working. Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's kind of cheating?
What are my thoughts on pre-recording demos and stuff like that, where you think, the demo gods are fickle, are they not, right? I highly recommend doing it. Highly recommend doing it. I didn't do it for this talk because I was showing you mouse settings, you know what I mean? And Windows could have crashed, I guess. But whenever I give a technical presentation where I'm going to go over malware analysis, especially malware analysis, if I'm going to be in a debugger and I'm in my head, I'm like, all right, I need to hit F7 13 times, F8 3 times, F7, then do a trace dump, and then and then you make a mistake, right? Have a recording available. It's super, super useful. Yeah. Yes. What? The question was, is there a point of enthusiasm in your presentations where it may seem like it's too much and it's unprofessional? Yeah, 100%. My first presentation that I really was excited about, right? It wasn't my first bigger presentation, but it was my first CactusCon presentation. It was a workshop, and I was so excited that I started dropping the F-bomb, and I dropped it it had to be every minute, if not literally, I'm not kidding. It was oh yeah, and then just constantly. And when I was done with that, the first thing I thought to myself, people were like, that was such a cool presentation. And then someone immediately came up to me and they said, hey, I just want to let you know, I didn't appreciate your language during your presentation. And all of my excitement just went, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I felt like a total idiot. Yeah. So, yeah. And there's also people, sometimes you see one of those TED Talks where they're like, what if I told you? And you're like, no, down. No, bring it down. So, yeah, definitely. There can be too much enthusiasm for sure. All right. I think we're good, folks. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.